All right, so thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Kate McCarthy. I will be hosting this session. I am the coordinator for the Prevention Coalition of Monmouth County, and welcome to Opioids, Monmouth County's response with our Acting Prosecutor Lori Linsky and health educator Vinny Smith. Today we're going to tackle a bunch of different topics: local opioid data, available programs and resources. We're going to talk about signs of an overdose and how to administer Narcan. There's also going to be a Q&A period at the end, so feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will address them either during or possibly at the end, and feel free to chime in. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Pastor Aikins, who is the Coalition Opioid Task Force Liaison and the Monmouth County Prosecutor Office Community Liaison. He has done such great work with us and along with the many hats that he wears in the community. So I wanted to give him an opportunity to introduce himself, and we'll get it going from there. Pastor Aikins?
Well, thank you, Caitlin. This has been a really phenomenal work, and it's been personal to my heart. One, I have family members wrestling with opioids, dealing with addiction, and so this task force has been a pleasure to be work with over the past couple of years. This particular session, I'm excited to have the prosecutor on board and to really take an active role in really helping us not just get the word out, but also to continue to fan the flame of what needs to be done. And so my role here, with the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office has always been to really kind of bridge the community and to connect the community in various ways. And so I'm grateful and thankful for the opportunity to even work in this task force. We have some great task force members, Vinny and all the others that are part of this task force. And so I'm grateful to lead it. And thank you so much for being a part of this session today.
Thank you so much, Pastor Aikins. Greatly appreciate you. All right, so we're going to turn it over, but I'd like to introduce Lori Linsky, who was sworn in as acting prosecutor on June 1st of 2021 and is the first woman in history of the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office to hold that position. Round of applause for that one. That's absolutely excellent. She was also the first woman to hold the rank of first assistant prosecutor when she was promoted to that position on July 10th of 2017. As acting prosecutor, she oversees a nearly 300-person law enforcement agency, including 58 assistant prosecutors, 79 detectives, and hundreds of clerical and administrative support staff. She is involved in all aspects of the management of the office. In addition to the guidance she provides to the MCPO and her involvement in the agency's investigations and prosecutions, she provides support and legal advice to over 50+ municipal police departments on enforcement matters, attorney general guidelines and directives, as well as countywide policies and case-specific inquiries. Linsky has been directly involved in the creation and implementation of the office's initiatives, including the June 2021 launch of Crisis Intervention Team Training, their Special Needs Registry, Community Law Enforcement Unit Outreach, Growth Through Opportunity Program, their Distracted Driving Campaign Unplugged and Alive. She is recognized as statewide expert in prosecutorial ethics and is sought out to provide guidance and training statewide. Linsky joined the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office in January 2013, following a 15+ year career with the New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice, the DCJ, Office of the Attorney General, where she served as Acting Bureau Chief, Deputy Attorney General, and Senior Counsel with DCJ's Prosecutors Supervision and Coordination Bureau. In this capacity, Linsky served as DCJ liaison to all 21 county prosecutors' offices, conducted statewide legal training, handled prosecutor's office management reviews, handled regulatory firearms permitting issues throughout the state, and served as the Division of Criminal Justice Ethics Liaison. Linsky was responsible for the drafting and implementation of New Jersey's shift to sequential double-blind eyewitness identification procedures and received an Attorney General Award for her work on that AG guideline in 20 2001. Upon joining the MCPO in 2013, she first held the position of Executive Assistant Prosecutor, who was promoted to Deputy First Assistant Prosecutor in January 2014 until her promotion to First Assistant Prosecutor in 2017. So without further ado, I am going to stop sharing my screen and introduce the Acting Prosecutor for Monmouth County, Lori Linsky.
Thank you, Kate, for that very, very warm welcome, and a special thank you to Reverend Aikins for all that he does for our office and for Prevention First. I know this is near and dear to his heart, as it is to mine as well. I have a PowerPoint that I will attempt to share if technology will shine on me and I'm able to do that. So let me see if I can pull it up here. Here we go. So I'm happy to talk today about the initiatives and programs that we have at the prosecutor's office to help with the opioid crisis. But before I even get into any slides, I think it's important to note that there's been, and I'm sure you've all seen, and our partnership in this work together demonstrates that there's been a huge shift from law enforcement to strictly enforcement, to trying to help to stem the tide of addiction and to get people into recovery programs. We know there is no way to arrest our way out of these issues, and as Reverend Aikins acknowledged, pretty much everybody in today's world knows somebody who is struggling with addiction, opioid issues, so many different types of addiction issues. And I think we as a society have a responsibility to do all that we can to work collectively to try to come up with solutions to really help people and encourage their ability to turn their lives around. And prosecutors and police officers are now a vital part, I believe, of that process. So we have a firm commitment to doing all that we can to making a difference. We do that in a number of ways at the prosecutor's office. Education, forums like the one we're on today, is vital to make law enforcement, our public and other partners aware of the programs and resources that we have. One of the big issues that we have is that the programs that we have are underutilized. I don't think they're underutilized because we don't have people who need the programs that we have. I think they're underutilized because people aren't aware that all of our programs exist. So we're doing all that we can proactively to get the word out, to spread that word. I think it's vital, the work that we do with our police departments and the police officers, boots on the ground, who are actually interacting with individuals who can benefit from the programs that we have. So we're going to continue to do all that we can to spread that message. One of the programs that is absolutely underutilized right now that I hope will change is our opioid diversionary program. And basically that's a prosecutor-led program, and it's designed to help divert low-level, nonviolent offenders to substance abuse treatment instead of traditional prosecution. And what does that mean? It means that if we have an appropriate case where an individual falls into that category, their criminal charges are basically put on a shelf and they're stashed there. Nothing happens to the criminal case at all, while the person has an opportunity to go through substance abuse recovery programs to try to get them on the right track. And if they go 6 months without any other charges, the initial charges go away. So there's never a criminal prosecution. We're basically pressing the pause button to try to get an individual who meets those criteria help. And we just had a successful case that I was alerted to where that in fact is exactly what happened. The individual needed assistance. They had no other charges within that period of time, and the initial charges disappeared. So that obviously is the best possible outcome, and in the right cases, it makes a huge difference to all parties involved. This program, the opioid diversion program, is actually going to be transitioning to our municipal courts, and it's going to be renamed. It's going to be called the Recovery Diversion Program. We're still waiting for some court approval at high levels, but the goal and the plan will be that it will first be launched as a pilot program in our Long Branch Municipal Court. And we will, once all the pieces fall into place, that pilot program will exist for a period of time so that we can work out all the kinks, make sure everything is working, with the ultimate plan that it will be replicated in all of our municipal courts. Because as you probably know, most low-level drug offenses don't actually make it to Superior Court. They're heard in municipal court. So it makes sense to really have that program where the most number of people can benefit from it. So that's the plan. We're waiting for court approval, and hopefully that will come through soon. We have our opioid use helpline, which is 833 OHH CARE. It is staffed by certified peer recovery specialists, and it's available 24/7 for individuals who are suffering from substance use disorder. The goal of this helpline is to provide whatever assistance is needed by whoever is calling the helpline, no matter the time of day or night. And the recovery coaches are well equipped to link the callers with resources and help to assist them. We've also, because again, I think this is an underutilized resource that people can really benefit from if they know it exists, we created palm cards, which are basically almost like a business card that police officers and other providers can have available to hand out to whomever they think could benefit from that. And we're going to make a concerted effort to get those palm cards not just out to our police officers, but to other partners that could spread the word about the helpline. We also have posters that are being framed for every police department in Monmouth County, where that number will be visible in the lobby of each police department, so that anybody who walks into the PD can see that we have this call line available, staffed by certified peer recovery specialists who can help 24/7. And we need your help as well to help us get the word out about the helpline. Narcan deployments. All of our first responders are armed with Narcan. I know Vinny's going to talk more about that in his piece of the presentation, but I will tell you that Narcan works, and it absolutely changes the trajectory of overdoses in so many cases. Just this past weekend, we had a Narcan deployment in Colts Neck Police Department, and a 38-year-old man who was overdosing was saved by Narcan. I see all of the alerts that come out all across the county 24/7, and this one really caught my eye because when I opened it, the name of the patrol officer who actually administered the life-saving dose of Narcan is our newest detective, who I swore in yesterday in a ceremony that we had here. It was his last day as a patrol officer with Colts Neck, and he ended that day by basically saving a man's life. And Narcan does that. And I know that from discussions with that officer, this individual's family was exceedingly grateful. He had just left an intensive inpatient treatment program, clearly, really struggling with this issue, and now hopefully has another chance at recovery. We are also taking the extra step. As you know, or may know, in a lot of states, there are laws that say that when somebody receives a dose of Narcan, they don't really have a choice in the matter, and they're sent to a recovery program. New Jersey doesn't have anything like that, and there are, lots of issues, obviously pros and cons with a program such as that. But we're trying to make a concerted effort to do more with individuals that we know are struggling because they've had to be administered Narcan. And now we're linking our recovery specialists to all of those individuals after the fact so that they can do follow-up with those individuals and hopefully convince them, if they're not already engaged in a recovery program, to maybe give that a try. So our office is giving RAFs and Hope Sheds Light the contact information for every individual who receives Narcan in the hopes that we can make those connections and it can really make a difference. We also have our overdose fatality review team, and that program is designed to try to take a holistic look at every overdose case that we have in the county and to try to dissect it and to look at, was there anything that happened in this individual's life that could have been a trigger or an alert to authorities, to doctors, to other people, to intercede, to have maybe made a difference? Do we see a group of overdose cases that stem from individuals all getting opioid prescriptions from the same doctor or the same facility? Was this a kid who was involved in sports and had a sports injury and was prescribed opioids, who then developed an addiction problem? We're just trying to take a holistic view from a higher vantage point to try to see if we can find trends, if we can find themes, if we can find anything in that person's life that could help better inform us how to make a difference moving forward so we can prevent a case like that down the road. So that's what we're trying to do. It's very labor intensive work. We have partners from a whole variety of organizations involved, including the Medical Examiner's Office, the Department of Health, our federal law enforcement partners, prevention and addiction specialists. We're really trying to figure out why somebody becomes addicted and see if there's any way that we can break that cycle and reverse the statistics that we're seeing. Our area here in Monmouth County and in the Northeast in particular, we're disproportionately impacted by addiction issues relating to opioids, and we really want to try to stem that tide. It's important to know, I'm sure everybody's seeing that, we're opening up now, but the impact of COVID was significant on individuals suffering with addiction issues. So many programs that people used to find supports when they're dealing with substance use disorder and addiction were halted or shuttered during COVID. There were treatment programs that closed, 12-step programs. Many of them were no longer in person and shifted to virtual platforms, which was not readily accessible to everybody. Gyms closed, opportunities for in-person support and contact, even with doctors in many cases and counselors, just really shifted and changed. And a lot of people who were already suffering with substance use disorder were very isolated, and it challenging to find additional help. I know that, as I said, I see every alert that happens in Monmouth County, and we've had definitely an increase in suicides. Certainly the mental health impact of COVID, I think, will be studied for a very long time, and I'm not sure that we really know the full effects right now. I think, that story is still being written. I did go back and look at the statistics just to provide them. So far this year, from January to July 2021, we've had 84 overdose deaths. I was surprised that number was actually lower than it was in 2020. pre-pandemic during the same time period where we had 108 overdose deaths. I sort of anticipated that the COVID mental health isolation impact would be seen in the overdose deaths. I was gratified to see that that was not the case. On the horizon, we have invitations that will be going out, and more information will become available. On Tuesday, August 31st, there's going to be Overdose Awareness Day at Riverside Gardens in Red Bank. It's going to be a great event, and folks in our office have been partnering with probably a number of you who are on this call to make sure that it's a great event. We also are working on a number of wellness events for youth. We're trying to create healthy coping mechanisms and ways for students to learn to deal with stressors as opposed to drugs or alcohol. We're trying to create healthy wellness events that are fun and engaging and will give kids other outlets. We're also working on a safe prescription disposal program for seniors. We had some grant money that was available to us, and it's going to be a great program that we're also going to be rolling out, which I think will help with, as you know, the issue of prescription drugs that need to be discarded safely so that they don't fall into the wrong hands. We have a wonderful team here, and I just want to acknowledge them and make sure that you realize that they are a resource as well. You've met Reverend Lydell Aikins, who is the head of our community law enforcement unit, along with Assistant Prosecutor Chris Decker. They are a dynamic duo, and they are available always at the ready to help pretty much anybody who needs assistance, set up programs, get us involved in programs, and we're happy to do that always. So, and it may make sense for us to partner with you. Please reach out, let us know, and we'll see if that makes sense. I want to mention Assistant Prosecutor Lindsay Ashwell. She is the Assistant Prosecutor in charge of our drug court and diversionary programs. She is passionate about this work. She has seen people's lives change and be turned around by these programs, and she wants to help spread that word as well. And again, some of our programs are underutilized, and we want to change that. So that's pretty much all I have in terms of a formal program, but I'm really happy to be here today, of the work that we can all do together moving forward. And you have a partner in me in trying to make a difference as well. So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lori. We appreciate your expertise and your passion as well. It is so nice to be able to call upon the prosecutor's office at any time we do something to spread education and awareness and to provide hope and programs and resources for people in the community. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, so up next, we have our health educator, Vinny Smith. He has been a longstanding member of the Prevention Coalition of Monmouth County and quite a vital force on the opioid task force. He has been an educator and administrator for over 25 years. He is now then retired, but still has so much passion and so much more to teach and to bring to the community. And so he is a health educator right now for Braven Health and Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he's done that for the past 14 years. So we're really excited to have him here with us as someone who can provide insight to signs of an overdose, how to administer Narcan, and more information that we can all benefit from. So Vinny?
Thank you very much for that introduction. All those years as an administrator was as a school administrator and a health and phys ed teacher, and mostly health. I believe I have a lot of school nurses on here. I think you know who I am, and you know what I call you, the angels of the school, but I also have many other people. What I'm talking about today is opioid and the overdose, when and why you want to use Narcan, knowing the difference about a high versus an OD. And we'll just go through the PowerPoint, and I'll go through that. Plus, I'll be adding some things in along the line. So if we can, let's move on. It says 1 in 4 teens have taken a prescription drug for reasons other than what it's intended for. Okay, that is actually gone up a little bit since that data was placed in there. But in 2019, 17% of 12th grade students admitted taking a prescription drug without prescription. And for those that are not involved in education, you have to remember that there are no surveys allowed in schools unless approved by schools. There's one particular one that every school uses. And in that survey, the kids don't lie, okay? When they answer something this important and it comes out to 17%, you know that it's probably just a little bit higher than that percentage because some of them are holding back. But the bottom line is that 1% is too high, never mind 17 or higher. Opioid-related deaths have quadrupled in 35 states since 2015. And more than 90% of adults who develop a substance use disorder began using before the age of 18. And there's a lot of various reasons for that. Every 12 minutes, a person in the U.S. dies of a prescription drug overdose. CD rates are same for 2019 and 18 at present time. Fentanyl use most likely will show an increase in cause of OD by the end of 2019, and it certainly has, especially when it comes to the opioids. But basically, most drugs affect the brain's reward circuit with dopamine. That's why some people become addicted, because they may get curious and try it, which is a big reason. But what happens is when they do try it, the reward circuit goes off, the dopamine kicks in, and they feel good. It's a release from reality, and it's easily becomes addictive for those people that are looking for something along those lines, or they're just experimenting and it reaches out and grabs them. The other bad part, though, unfortunately, is that when a lot of these drugs are now cut with fentanyl, it causes a lot of deaths because fentanyl has no target range. It could happen the first time you use it, it may happen the 5th time or the 100th time, but sooner or later, fentanyl will get you. Overstimulation is an intense high that leads to repeat use, which basically I just said. One of the other reasons why a lot of people get involved in substance abuse is escapism. Escaping problems in their life. They don't have coping mechanisms, or they don't have assistance or counseling or help or family. But what they're doing basically is that they're running away from their problems, they're getting high, and the problems go away while they're high. But once they come down out of the high, guess what? They're usually worse or more. So escapism is one of the big problems that we have with that. And there's peer pressure. Peer pressure is people say, hey, let's try this. Let's have some fun. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's especially big with kids going to school. But it also happens with adults. You got your cousin that hangs out with you and you're 45 years old and he or she says, you know, I've done this a couple of times. It's really a good experience. Why don't you try it? That's peer pressure. And it can be done even to a worse level where people are putting peer pressure on you because they want you to join them in what they're having a problem with. And one of the big ones is curiosity. Curiosity is just basically, well, I'll try it one time. And if you like it, you might be back. And that's not a good thing. The other problem, though, is that with curiosity, you say, oh, I'll try it one time. And it kills you right away, especially with that fentanyl. So there's a lot of different reasons why it becomes addicted. But we also have Narcan. Narcan is the substance that is administered when there is an OD, okay, an overdose. What some people think it's only has to be administered once. No, sometimes it has to be administered 2 or 3 times, but we'll talk about that in the specific training of giving it. But it works by counteracting the life-threatening depression of the central nervous system and respiratory system. That's clearly a big clue there, the respiratory system, okay? It allows the victim to breathe normally. A lot of people have been trained that are on here in CPR. CPR is not really used when a person ODs because of any type of opioid. It's triggered from the brain, and the heart usually doesn't stop. But what it does do is it closes down the respiratory system, okay? Sometimes a non-scheduled prescription medication will also help, will do it to you. If the medication or prescription doesn't belong to you, don't take it. It's given for specific reasons by doctors for specific reasons and people. Oh, I got a backache. Oh, take this. You know, someone thinks they're doing you a favor. They're really not. Okay? Don't take any non-scheduled or non-prescribed medication that you're supposed to have. Okay? It only works with opioids. The Narcan itself, okay, only works with opioids in the system. It has been used mistakenly for heart attacks, but if that happens, it cannot harm you or hurt you. So when in doubt, if you don't know the difference between a high versus an OD, okay, or a heart attack or a non-heart attack, don't worry about it because the Narcan cannot harm anybody in any way. It's usually used by emergency personnel, but can be administered by any minimally trained person. School nurses are trained due to New Jersey governor signing a bill that all high school must have Narcan in nurse's office and be the person to administer it. It is suggested all schools have it. Never know what can occur from people that come into that school. The law says every high school must have it. And because of debt right now, a lot of schools are looking to find out where they can get it for free, and there are a lot of programs like that, and they usually find them. But you could also go to a Walgreens and buy it for $35, okay? But the bottom line is that don't have Narcan not only in the high school, it should be in every school. And the reason for that is that you never know who's going to walk through those doors. You could have a meeting set up for a parent of a child that is constantly disruptive, and you want to have a parent come. Maybe that parent might have a problem. That's why the kid might be constantly disruptive. You don't know who's walking through those doors at any time, so have it in every school, okay? It's much, much more important. And Narcan has no potential for abuse. You cannot abuse it, okay? It's not getting you high. It's doing the opposite. Some people who suffer from heroin addiction have it with them, and they do. They carry it with them. That is very common now for people that are addicted to opioids, okay, to carry Narcan with them. In fact, there's a certain diner in Ocean County where they videotaped it, where they were going in at night and gathering, and the first thing they would do, they wanted to go in the back of the diner. It was like L-shaped. They would take the Narcan out of their pocket and put it on top of the table, and then the heroin would come out after that. They'd have a cup of coffee or something like that, but they will help each other and administer Narcan. And it's very common for them to be carrying it on themselves. I don't have a problem with that. You know, if they haven't had enough of help or direction or counseling and they're still addicted, well, they can still save their own life, or, well, they can't administer it because they're going to be OD and not capable, but someone else can. Nasal spray should be the type of application for schools. All right. If you look at the picture, that's the nasal spray. It looks, you hold your two fingers on the top, your thumb goes in the middle. When you administer it, you're going to place it in the nostril all the way up until your fingers touch the edge of the nostril, and then release it. That is the most effective. They make kinds that look almost like a syringe needle. Not that great. And also have more than one in a school or on you, because sometimes it might take 2, possibly 3 additional doses for the person to come back. 2 types, so make sure you know what type was purchased by your district and or business company, or the one you have. It can be injected in muscle, vein, or under the skin, but that's not done unless it's in a hospital. Our first aid step is going to be the vessel on the left, the picture of the pump. That would be the best thing, okay? Steps to use Narcan, first of all, you have to recognize, make sure what the symptoms are. Now, we're talking about the difference between high versus OD. And what I'm going to tell you is that when a person is high, they have relaxed muscles, they are breathing, speech is slowed and or slurred, sleepy, nodding off, responds to stimuli, normal heartbeat, normal pulse, normal skin color, normal to small size pupils. Okay, that's the symptoms of a person being high. A person who has OD is much different. They have pale, clammy skin, shallow breathing or no breathing, infrequent speech or none, deep snorting or gurgling, unresponsive to stimuli, and slow heartbeat plus blue color pinpoint pupils. Okay, so you want to recognize the situation. You're going to respond. Okay, if you are going to respond, one of the first things you should do, if anyone else is around or you have your cell phone, you dial 911 first. Okay, what you have to do is simply get professional emergency help there for you. But when you call in and you dial 911, tell them life-threatening, possible OD, so they are aware of who and what they're sending and what to expect. Okay. And then, of course, if you're going to respond, you're going to follow the steps that I'm going to instruct you on in the coming slides. You want to reverse it, okay? You want to help the victim to breathe. Remember, it's about breathing when it's an OD. Be cautious when reviving victims, especially once they start to come back to you, okay? You want to make sure that you're at a distance, okay, and you're safe. You don't have to be a block away, but you have to be within kicking or hands flaring, because when they come back, they're going to be very, very irritated. You've taken their high away, plus they're also coming out of something that they're not aware of, and they're just going to overreact sometimes. Not always, but be prepared for it, okay? And then if you have any reporting to do, you're going to have to do that. And it's either in school as a nurse or outside when a policeman comes or an ambulance comes. You're going to have to give them the information that you have. All right, and we're going to go over all of that in the next slides. You observe the victim for the signs and symptoms of opioid overdose, which I just gave you, okay? Respiratory depression, slow or non-breathing, deep snorting or gurgling, unresponsive to stimulation. What you want to do is you want to ask them their name, shake them, okay, or do the sternal rub. The sternal rub is placing your hand on the chest, gently massaging it. You're trying to get to see if you can get any response, okay? Usually the lips, the fingertips, okay, become blue. All right, and the pupils are very, very pinpointed, okay, very, very tiny. There's a slowed heart rate and there's a slowed pulse, okay? If you have the suspicion of opioid overdose, it can be based on these things. Symptoms, which I just set up above. Known history sometimes. You might know the person. You might know the history of the student or the person that's having it, if it's a family member or something along those lines. Or a report of bystanders, okay? Because now, and I'm going to talk about this in a little while, a lot of times the person that is with the person ODing will stay there and say, I think they OD'd on something, okay? They're not going to get in trouble, and we're going to talk about the law at the very end, right? So you can rely on that if they're there. If you're in a school setting, you might have prior knowledge and records about that student, okay, or the school psychologist or counselors and things like that. You might see nearby meds or illicit drugs or paraphernalia, okay, nearby, on a floor, on the ground, near them, in the bed, somewhere, anywhere they're lying, look around. You might be able to see what caused it. If you do, gather it up. Don't let somebody else pick it up and walk away with it, okay? But this is the recognizing and the whole thing. And the high versus the overdose, like I already talked to you about, all right? That the big difference is that when you're OD, very shallow breathing or none, okay? So what you're really doing here is what? You're going to do with the steps, you're going to be worried about getting that oxygen into them, all right? Let's go to the next one because I spoke about this already. Don't forget, what's the first thing you do? 911, get professional help. Request advanced life support, place victim on their back. Okay, once you're done with that 911, put the victim on their back at first, okay? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to check airway for blockage. Now, you might want to be careful, all right, putting your fingers in their mouth. You may want to use, if there's a blockage, you may want to use something else to possibly get that out. You also may want to put gloves on. Now, you may not have gloves, but nowadays with the pandemic, there's a lot of people that still carry them rubber gloves with them, okay? But you have to make sure that airway is just not blocked. If that's the case, it just might be a simple case of choking. But if it's not, You have to be very careful. If you have a whole kit with you, a school nurse should, but the rest of us probably do not. Okay, but if you have a kit, okay, use the mask from the kit, pinch the nose and then the mouth over mouth. You're going to do the breathing, okay? You're going to give 2 deep chest breaths into the person's mouth, all right? Hold the nose, put your arm under their neck, tilt the head back, and 2 full chest. Now, when you do that, after you put the 2 breaths in, make sure you look to your left to make sure, or your right, depending upon which side of the body you're on. Look down at the chest to make sure that the chest is right. You have to make sure that oxygen gets in there, okay? Then you give 1 breath every 5 seconds after the 2 initial deep breaths, okay? Then you want to reverse it. After you do that, okay, you want to administer the Narcan. Again, you see the type I'm talking about there. It's the 2 fingers on top, the thumb on the bottom of the plunger. All right. You're going to now take that person and you're going to place them in the recovery position. The recovery position is when they're on their side, their hands are under their head, the knees are bent. This is the recovery position because they will stay in that position. It's the best position for you to work with also, okay? Placed it in the nostril until your fingers touch the nose. Then eject it. Put it in 1 nostril. 1 dose, 1 nostril, okay? Stay with the victim until help arrives. Be careful, victim might become agitated, like I said before. Gather anything you find around, illegal or prescription found on or around the victim, and process according to your policy if you're in school, or if not, okay, if the PD comes, all right, and the ambulance personnel, basically you're going to be talking to them and giving it to them, okay? You got to remember that Narcan blocks the brain receptor and knocks off the opioid from the receptors for only 30 to 90 minutes, mostly more closer to 30 minutes. This allows the victim to breathe again and reverse the overdose. If they do not revive in a timely amount, okay, which is usually 1.5 to 3 minutes, I would say if they don't revive in 2 minutes, you will do then a second dose if you have it with you, okay, a second dose in the other nostril. If they do not revive and you don't have another one, just make sure when the ambulance or whoever shows up, whatever emergency personnel shows up, let them know that you gave the first dose and tell them how long since they have not reacted. Because how it works is that Narcan goes through the nostrils up into the brain, and it covers the receptors that are in the brain, okay, which it's hard to explain, but these receptors is what's going to be absorbed through into the brain, which will give all those feelings of the drugs. But this will block that. It actually will block those receptors. When it blocks the receptors, then you're on the steps of coming back from an OD. Okay, so it's kind of like hard to understand, but it's just, if it's given, it will get on those receptors through the nostrils, that medication and cover them, that are in the brain, okay? Here is how to administer. This is the one that has the single dose that looks like a needle. They're plastic. They're not very flexible. They're a little bit harder to use. But remember, again, act fast, and most importantly, call 911. Next slide. Okay, legal protection. A lot of people say, well, I'm not doing this, I'm not protected, I don't want to get sued. Yeah, you can. Well, anybody can get sued, but you're protected. So don't worry about that, okay? There's the Overdose Prevention Act, okay, which means if a person who does not severely do something wrong, okay, if you, and I mean, it's got to be really severe. So in other words, if you're trying to OD them and you stick their head in a bucket of water and you drown them, well, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen, hopefully, okay? So the Overdose Prevention Act is there for you when you act appropriately, okay? You also have the Good Samaritan law, which is basically the same thing. You're protected because you are doing something that is good for another person, all right? Unless you're bizarre. And then when it came with schools and stuff, Assembly number 4177 is approved, and the Senate then promoted the bill 2967 that was signed by the New Jersey governor. It requires Narcan in every high school in New Jersey. The school nurse office is to house it. The school nurse to administer, or trained employee designated by school policy. Okay, once the school nurse becomes certified to do this, this is certifying any school nurses that are on here right now. What's happening is that anybody who nurse trains is also now covered by this, okay? The screening, brief intervention, referral, and treatment is mandatory. You are covered, so please don't worry about the legal parts of it. You are covered in good faith. And what we have here is a video. It's always good because the verbiage is great in education, but seeing it always gives you a better idea of what I just said. So we're going to play the video and you can watch that, okay?
Is not a substitute for emergency medical care. As with any drug, you need to be aware of important safety information concerning its use. Please see indications and important safety information at the end of this video. Also, please see accompanying full prescribing information in the use of this product. Narcan nasal spray is an emergency treatment for a known or suspected opioid overdose. The appropriate use of Narcan nasal spray can help you save a life. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. As with any drug, you need to be aware of important safety information concerning its use. If you encounter someone who is unresponsive and you suspect an overdose, first shake their shoulders and shout their name.
Kevin.
Ask if he or she is okay.
Hey, can you hear me?
Check for signs of an overdose. Unresponsive to touch or voice. Breathing is slow, uneven, or has stopped. Snoring, gasping, or gurgling sounds. Fingernails or lips are blue or purple. Administer Narcan nasal spray as quickly as possible if someone is unresponsive and an opioid overdose is suspected, even when in doubt, because prolonged respiratory depression may result in damage to the central nervous system or even death. Lay the person on their back to receive a dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove Narcan nasal spray from the box. Peel back the tab with the circle to open it. Remove and review the printed quick start guide inside the package. Hold the Narcan nasal spray with your thumb on the bottom of the plunger and your first and middle fingers on either side of the nozzle. Do not press the plunger to test or prime the device. If you do, you will waste all or part of the dose of medication. Tilt the person's head back and provide support under the neck with your hand. Gently insert the tip of the nozzle into one nostril until your fingers on either side of the nozzle are against the person's nose. Press the plunger firmly to give the full dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove the device from the nostril after giving the dose. After you have given this medication, seek emergency help right away. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care.
I'm with somebody who stopped breathing. I think they've had an overdose.
Move the person on their side after giving Narcan nasal spray. If possible, put their hands under their head and bend their upper leg forward. This helps prevent the person from rolling onto their stomach. This is known as the recovery position. Continue to watch the person closely. If they do not wake up or respond to your voice or touch, or if they do not seem to be breathing normally within 2 to 3 minutes, use a new Narcan nasal spray to give an additional dose in the other nostril. Acute opiate withdrawal symptoms may occur from use of Narcan nasal spray in patients who are opioid dependent. Symptoms include body aches, diarrhea, increased heart rate or tachycardia, fever, runny nose, sneezing, goosebumps, also known as piloerection, sweating, yawning, nausea or vomiting, nervousness, restlessness or irritability, shivering or trembling, abdominal cramps, weakness, and increased blood pressure. When the emergency is over, put the Narcan nasal spray back in its box and throw it away in a place that is away from the reach of children. In addition to watching this video, please read the quick start guide that comes with Narcan nasal spray before using it. Talk to a healthcare professional if you have any questions about how to administer Narcan nasal spray. Please read the indications and important safety information that follows. Store Narcan nasal spray at room temperature between 59 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 25 degrees centigrade. Do not freeze Narcan nasal spray. Keep Narcan nasal spray in the box until ready to use. Protect from light. Replace Narcan nasal spray before the expiration date on the box. Keep Narcan nasal spray and all medicines out of the reach of children.
Okay, they have you calling 911 later. They want you to give it to them first. Don't do it that way. Always call 911 first. That 10, 15 seconds is not going to make a difference in life or death. Get the emergency help you need first, then go through that whole process, okay? Remember, again, that if you give it and it's a heart attack, you can't hurt them. If you misdiagnose the situation, you think that they're ODing when they're really having a heart attack. Don't be concerned with that. It's actually a simple procedure, but you have to maintain your calm. You can't get crazy about it. You have to go about your business of helping that person without panic, okay? The references: New Jersey State Law, CDC, Opioid Fact Sheet, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, New Jersey Pharmacy Department, and Rutgers Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy, and the things I throw into. If I have any nurses here and you want to get your PDH certificate, okay, open up the chat in case you forgot my email. Send me an email, follow the directions on the chat to get your certificate. If you're not a school nurse, there is no professional development for you. I will now open it up to any questions you may have. I hope this has been very comprehensive for you and helpful for you. Remember, it saves lives, and lives matter. All lives matter. So, any questions?
Thanks, Vinny. We're going to ask that everyone put their questions in the chat. We're just going to go over resources and then save the question and answer just for the end, but only have a couple more minutes just to go over. Almost there. Thank you so much, Vinny. We appreciate that. We appreciate your expertise.
Thank you very much. Happy to do it.
Alrighty, so again, my name is Kate McCarthy. I'm the Regional Coalition Coordinator and Assistant Director for Prevention First, which is a division of Preferred Behavioral Health Group. Our coalition exists to improve substance use, misuse prevention strategies through awareness, education, advocacy, and that's really to affect community level change. So, for example, we have this session, and we want to thank everybody for being here today and for all of our wonderful presenters. We couldn't have done this without you, and we can't do this without our partners. So one of the things that I wanted to share as I go over additional resources and programs that are available in our county and in the state is that one of the things that we are doing, the Prevention Coalition of Monmouth County, along with Long Branch Hears, has partnered to work together to put on an event to honor our loved ones who have passed away to this crisis. And also, you know, bring awareness to this and call upon our community members as a call to action. So we're asking that you join us on Sunday, August 29th from 1:30 to 4 o'clock, and that's at Long Branch's City Hall. We'll be there. If you do have a picture of a loved one, we ask that you bring them to have it displayed on our clothesline. And we're going to have guest speakers, personal stories, tributes, resources, and so much more. So please join us. You can also find this information on our Facebook and our website at pcofmc.org. So as I move towards resources, one of the things that our coalition created during the peak of COVID was a resource card for law enforcement. We have so many of these available. We've been giving them out thanks to Pastor Aikins. But if you are interested in having some of these, they're pretty small, nice to have around, just to have some of these resources available at your fingertips. Please reach out to me and we will provide them for you. So there are several different resources, and this is just some to name a few. So I'm just going to mention these, but I also have a great resource where you can find even more. Advanced Health and Education is located right here in Eatontown. We have their number here. This is also going to be posted on our website, so you can access this As well, the Monmouth County Division of Behavioral Health, you can call them at 732-431-6451, and this will help you get some information on referral services. Where do I bring so-and-so? These are the signs and symptoms that I'm seeing. There's also mental health issues. As the coordinator to this coalition, I also like to introduce myself as someone who has experienced what it's like to live with people who suffer from both mental health and addiction issues. And so I have been through the personal process of trying to find resources for a loved one. And I truly know how chaotic and how overwhelming that this can be. So please know that we had called all of these places ahead of time to make sure that, phones are being answered, making sure that they still are able to take, people in, that they're still up and running and things like that. There's also Princeton House Behavioral Health. They have an inpatient and they also have outpatient. So if you have somebody where they need to be inpatient because of the level of their substance use disorder or mental health disorder, that's also available there. We also have the Mental Health Association of Monmouth County. They have outpatient mental health services for adults there, and I believe that they are located right in Tinton Falls. There is New Hope, which they have several different sites in Monmouth County, their primary residential one being in Marlboro, right next to Discovery Institute. You can reach them at 800-705-HOPE-4673. That's for inpatient, outpatient, adolescents as well. There are not a lot of adolescent inpatient rehabs throughout the state, and this is one of them. So this is also a crucial resource to know and be familiar with. Discovery Institute, they actually are in the same location. They share a dining room. They're right next to each other over in Marlboro, which is a great area that's surrounded by trees. And, I know that some of the people there enjoy the premises and just the surroundings of this location. And we have Preferred Behavioral Health Group, which have substance use services that you can contact for adults that are 18 and over. They also have the Support Team for Addiction Recovery, the STAR program, which is based out of Ocean Township here in Monmouth County. You can reach them at 732-367-4700, extension 2174. Also, there are hotlines that are available. As mentioned earlier by the Acting Prosecutor Lori Linsky, Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office has Operation Helping Hand helpline. So you can also call that number and connect with recovery support specialists. And we also have the Council on Compulsive Gambling of New Jersey. I know today we're talking more towards, opioid addiction and mental health, but gambling is also in the same realm of this. And, this is something that we wanted to share resources on because it does exist, and you are not alone. Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. This is a 24-hour toll-free confidential suicide prevention hotline. We also have 180 Turning Lives Around. This is domestic violence hotline, and it offers confidential access to domestic violence information and services, including crisis intervention. So if somebody is in the midst of a domestic violence situation, they're trying to seek out of it, they also provide support, counseling, and immediate shelter. So this is a great resource to have. We separated the two different hotlines here because one is more specific to domestic and sexual violence, whereas the other one is able to help people who might have disabilities, who might be deaf, hard of hearing. Monmouth County Health Department, there is also a hotline available as it relates to COVID-19 updates and resources. And last but not least, we have the MonmouthResourceNet.org. So this is really great resource. And as you can see here on the screen, I kind of took a screenshot of it. So if you type in MonmouthResourceNet.org and you go to Health Services, which is the third tab from the left, you go down to behavioral health, mental health, there's crisis, safety, so on and so forth, medical services, outpatient services, and then it also opens a tab to a little bit more specific of what you're looking for. This is a wonderful resource and a lot of programs that are out there. When I tell you that there's so many that it's it can be hard to keep up with. And I think it's so important for us to know that they do exist. This is a wonderful way to find out. I'm going to go back for a second because I don't want to forget CPC Behavioral. If you go to cpcbehavioral.org, you will see that they have two different types of services provided for treatment for youth and treatment for adults. Now, it breaks it down here, and I wanted to show this to our viewers and to people who will be watching the recorded version of this, that they have a multiple different locations. So Aberdeen, Howell, Freehold, Neptune, Red Bank, Middletown, right on Highway 35 going southbound over before the Red Bank Bridge. And they have additional community programs. This is also a wonderful resource for outpatient services as it relates to mental health and substance use, and or both. So we also are available. You can always contact me. My email is kmccarthy@preventionfirst.net. So if there's any way that we can assist you to resources, contacting somebody, or anything like that, always feel free to reach out. So I'm going to stop sharing about resources, and we're going to open it up to Q&A. So for now, I am going to thank all of our recorded individuals who have watched this. Thank you for watching this. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can visit our website at pcofmc.org. Please know that all of us here, all the community partners, do support you and whatever you need.